So one of the things that I like to teach early on in singing is how to coordinate the breath pressure system in the body. So the pressure system starts at the pelvic floor and goes as high as the vocal folds. And when we inhale, it's our diaphragm that contracts and moves down into our body. The diaphragm is attached to the bottom 6 ribs and the sternum here and to the 12th ribs in back. So it's this really big muscle. So as it contracts, the muscle filaments slide together and the dome drops down into the body. As a result, the abdominal wall moves out to make room for the diaphragm, and the pelvic floor moves down and back to make room. So that's the inhalation phase. The exhalation phase is the coordination of the contraction of the pelvic floor, which by definition is a close and a lift up toward the bladder, and the co-contraction of the deep abdominal muscle called the Transversus Abdominis. And that kind of feels like a little bit of a zip up and in between the pubic bone and that low rise gene area. So close, lift, zip. And as we contract our pelvic floor and transversus, we get a little decompression in the spine. So there's a little bit of elevation, and there's also an increase in breath pressure. So if we do a close, lift, zip, close, lift, zip, and then a release, close, lift, zip, release. You can see just a little bit of movement of my arm. Close, lift, zip, release. Close, lift, zip, release. So the release is just as important as the contraction for support. If you don't let go of the abdominal and pelvic floor musculature, your diaphragm doesn't have room to fully contract and move down into the body. So make sure you feel that total release, and it feels like something dropping down and forward. So I call it a clunk sometimes. So close, lift, zip, release. Close, lift, zip, release. You can also think of the pelvic floor kind of as like a little baby swing. It moves down and back on the inhalation, and then the close, lift, zip moves it up and forward. So close, lift, zip, release. Close, lift, zip, release. At the same time, the vocal folds are closing as the pelvic floor is closing. So ha, hey, he, ho, who. And I would suggest practicing that series 10 times just to get good at that. Ha, hey, he, ho, who. Great. And then you can move to more sung sounds. So ha, hey, he, ho, who. And practice that 10 times. So that's a nice way to kind of practice the coordination that you need for good support and kind of break it down to the different parts so that you have success when you sing. Enjoy.